Good morning and welcome to the First Existentialist Congregation of Atlanta. We open our service by lighting a fire. And today I'm going to say that the symbolism of the highest flame not being lit is because that belongs to you and it's up to you to take care of that. We welcome everyone to the First Existentialist Congregation of Atlanta. We are a philosophically based spiritual community dedicated to human liberation and founded on the principles of existentialism and feminism. We acknowledge that we are the beneficiaries as a congregation largely of Caucasian Americans of practices that were not fair, that were frankly in many cases extraordinarily unfair, unjust, and military in getting rid of previous inhabitants of this area, going all the way back to the original Muskogee Creek people and coming up through more recent communities that existed in this area, particularly the African American community of Rose Hill. We particularly acknowledge that existentialism says it's not enough to say that you abhor something, that it is incumbent on each of us to act. We are delighted today to have with us Craig Rafuse. And he'll introduce our opening song. We invite you to rise in body or spirit as you are willing and able as we sing.
It is in the new songbook, Both Sides Now.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I love Joni Mitchell, and I'm so happy to see that there.
For anyone who is not familiar, we're going to be, the songs in the new songbook are the ones in the hard folder, and they are arranged alphabetically. Our opening words today come from everybody's favorite billionaire, and some of you may find them just a tad ironic. We can't have willy-nilly proliferation of fake news. That's crazy. You can't have more types of fake news than real news. That's allowing public deception to go unchecked. That's crazy. Elon Musk. Today's service is going to be a little bit about what the opening song was, a little bit about the yin and yang, the new, the old, the ones that are crazy and the ones that aren't. And the ones who think they know the difference. In the meantime, we're living here now, and if there's anyone who is here for the first time or would like to say hello, we would invite you to stand and say your name, and we would like to be able to welcome you. So is there anyone who would like to introduce themselves? Hello.
Hi. I'm Lisa. This is Michael.
Well, you both look wonderful.
I've been to some Universal
We're really glad you came. Thank you so much.
Welcome. He's 3, he just turned 3. He's been in Nebraska, and the Universalist Church there, and Louisiana also, churches.
He's better traveled than a lot of people I know.
What was that?
He's better traveled already than a lot of people I know.
Yeah, he's been in the Netherlands.
Anybody have any birthdays or anniversaries they would like to celebrate today? And for anyone who is new, we're kind of open-ended on today. If you've had a birthday in the last week or the coming week, we're completely happy to celebrate that as well. All right, then time for another congregational song. Rick, what shall we have?
Yes, in the older songbook, not older, number 41, the Gedankens and Pride.
Great.
What's that?
Great. Yes.
Yes. The Gedankens and Pride, and Robert tells me that this was one of Lydia's favorites. I know this. God, I must have been singing this back in the 1960s. Because I was a folkie starting in 1962, my goodness. Yeah, as of this year, I've been playing the guitar 60 years. Man. Anyway, let's see, we're going to do it in the key they have here, A. And just give you a little taste of it. It'll be like, D, like that. 1, 2, 3, 1. The Gedankens and Pride, my thoughts freely flower. The Gedankens and Pride, my thoughts give me power. No scholar can map them, no wonder can trap them, no one can deny. The Gedankens as I please, and this gives me pleasure. My conscience decrees, this right I must treasure. My thoughts will not cater to or dictator. No one can deny the Gedankens and Pride. 1, 2, and the tyrants throw me in prison, my thoughts will burst free, like blossoms in season. Foundations will crumble, and structure will tumble, and people will cry, the Gedankens and Pride. Lovely.
Thank you very much. If anyone has community announcements, if you would be kind enough to bring them up to me during the service, perhaps drop them into the offering plate and let the pickup person know, then we would have our community announcements at the end of today's service. Reverend Marcia Mitchell, do you have words to share with us today?
I'm trying to remember to put the microphone up against my mouth so you can hear me. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm very grateful to see each one of you here this morning. And one of the things that I wanted to let you know is I want you to check your email, because you will be receiving an email later today that will tell you that we're going to begin a Zoom on Wednesday nights. It's going to be an informal way of being able to gather like we used we were able to come back into the building and have our services in person. And a lot of people have talked about missing that opportunity to talk with one another, and especially those that are not able to come to service on Sunday. So everyone is welcome. There'll be a link to the Zoom in the email, and there's no, right now, there's no set agenda other than just being able to get together and have that opportunity to commune via Zoom. So I hope that you will join us on Wednesday. It's going to be 6 o'clock to 7, and everyone's welcome. The other thing is just to remind everyone that the world is still as crazy as it was last week. There's a lot going on, and whatever positive energy that you can put out there, and whatever way you can add to the positive way that we want to move in this world with kindness and create an environment that will be for the children like the ones that are coming up after us. I can't imagine what this world is going to be like unless we really fight to have it be the kind of world that we want to leave them. So, y'all have a wonderful week, and stay cool. It's supposed to be in the 90s this week, so be very careful out there. Be sure and keep your fluids up, as I would say as a massage therapist to my clients, that it's very dangerous with this heat. So anyway, thank you for being here. Y'all have a great week. Oh, and if nobody, did you haven't watched the, if you
Use the mic, please.
If you didn't see the hearing the other night, please go back and look at that, because, you know, I thought since I'm a news hound, that I knew everything. Well, there was a lot of interesting news, and it was put together amazingly well. So please go back and look at that and keep up with what's going on.
Change it, good job.
Recently, I have been listening to a book. I do that quite a bit while driving because, of course, there's a lot of time to enjoy books while driving in Atlanta. And it makes a big deal of riddles. And so I have a very quick riddle that I will give to you now. You cannot weigh it, record it, or export it. You cannot eat it, collect it, or give it away. You can have it by yourself or enjoy it with friends. What is it?
Air.
You can measure air.
Music.
Love?
I thought that the physician in the program might be a help.
Yeah, I was wondering if we just sang about it.
Is silence.
Oh.
You cannot weigh it, record it, or export it. You cannot eat it, collect it, or give it away. You can have it by yourself or enjoy it with friends.
That's a good riddle.
At this time, we do join together in silence. And exceptions, of course, are made for little people who may make noises, which frankly make me quite happy. There are candles on each side of the sanctuary if you would like to light one, thinking of someone, and we'll have a short period of silent meditation. Wasn't it tempting to just have another 20 minutes of that? Welcome back. Greg, what is our next song?
Yes, in the new songbook, Peace Train. Yeah. Peace Train. Under P.
For our offering, and Craig has some special music. If two people would volunteer and come up with the offering plates.
On this date, 40 years ago, a million people marched in New York City, Manhattan, for disarmament. And I was there. I rode on the bus all night. And they let us out of a church in Greenwich Village. And I needed to pee real bad, so I was at the urinal, and there was Bill Fleming. Many of you know him. He's been involved here. And we had been involved in the forming of a chapter of Performing Artists for Nuclear Disarmament. So while we were peeing, we said, you know, we love this story. You know. Bill says, let's form a pan band when we get back. And we did. We call it Expand band today. And we're still doing it. Yeah, 40 years later, we're still playing. You can have a chance to hear us. WRFG is going to have a benefit on July 22nd at the New Arts Exchange. I'm not quite sure where that is yet, but I'll have to find it. Anyway, I'm going to sing you a song that Bill wrote, and we recorded it many, many years ago. And he got all of this stuff in the song from Lanier. These are apparently things that Lanier said right here. So. And Andy, I told Andy about this song, so that there's some talk about maybe this song might end up in the song. Let's see. When you don't know, hang on. You would think I would know how it goes, but when you don't know what to do, boy, it's got to be in a different key than that. I've always played it in this key, though. When you don't know what to do, don't let decisions stifle you. Let intuition be your guide, where you can set some things aside. Let it rock, let it roll. I say we study war no more. I say let's give this a chance. Let it rock, I wanna dance. Because I always sing the harmony, apparently I don't know how high this is. You don't need to take first place, or even need to run the race. The shortest way between the two, that may not be the way for you. Let it rock, let it roll. I say study war no more. I say let's give this a chance. Let it rock, I wanna dance. Little guitar solo here. You don't need to have a reason, or be dressed for every season. Say I don't know, it'll do just fine. When answers don't come right to mind, let it rock, let it roll. I say we study war no more. I say let's give this a chance. Let it rock, I wanna dance. Yes, I do. We'll find a decent key to put that in.
Thanks, Craig, and when you see it, thank Bill for us. For anyone who may not be aware yet, Wade Marbaugh was in a play out in Oklahoma and then drove down to Louisiana and Mississippi. I think he picked up his wife Stell in Louisiana and they drove back. And he called me Thursday night and said, "Hi, Robert, I have COVID." And said that I've almost got everything put together. Would you just read what I had? And I said, "Sure." if there's no other way. And then yesterday, Stell called and said, "I have it too." So keep them both in mind. Thank you, Marcia, for stepping in today to open the sanctuary and help prepare the building. It's a great honor. It's a little hard to imagine exactly how one is authentic when reading someone else's words. And so I'm going to invite you to do something a little different if it appeals to you today, which is to simply half close your eyes as you're listening. I'm going to try to deliver this exactly as Wade wrote it. And I want you to be thinking of Wade, a man who grew up in Ohio and had very different experiences. And is now, of course, a playwright and an actor and so forth. So one, as if I knew what an actor did, I do need to get some water. Oh, and also in the great tradition of First Existentialist, he called me at 9:45 this morning and said, "Have you left yet?" I said, "I want to make some revisions." I said, "No, that's fine." Good morning. It's a great honor to be invited to share my thoughts with this congregation, the incredible, incomparable, and sometimes incomprehensible First Existentialist congregation of Atlanta. I profusely apologize for catching COVID while on a play tour in Oklahoma and subsequently a wonderful road trip with my wife, Stell. I am grateful to have Robert Stewart read these remarks for me. My mother, Carmilla May Fraser Marbaugh, was raised on a farm in northern Iowa. When I was growing up in Ohio, one of my favorite things was our annual summer visit to Iowa. That farm was a second home to me. We had so many idyllic summer activities, helping out on the farm, playing pitch and catch and croquet in the farmyard, fishing in Minnesota, and going to Minnesota Twins games. Now, Mom attended high school in Algona, the county seat, because her district school wasn't that good back in the 1930s. So she lived with two of her aunts and her paternal grandmother during the academic year. Those three old ladies lived together for decades, and I loved visiting them every summer. It was like time traveling back to 1890 with their antique furniture, yellowed wallpaper, fascinating old ceramic knickknacks on the shelves, and tea served in pretty little cups. Well, Mom told me her grandmother, Eldora Barker Fraser, would occasionally say to her, "Carmilla, all the world is crazy except thee and me, and sometimes I wonder about thee." I can revise that quote to be appropriate for today. All the world is crazy except First E and me. And sometimes I wonder about First E. Charles Dickens began his novel, Tale of Two Cities, with, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times." I'd like to talk a little about that yin-yang of our existence in these times. First, the best of times. I once heard a guy ask a Dakota medicine man, "Is there anything about the white man's ways that you like?" The medicine man replied, "Medicine." The guy said, "You were a medicine man. Why do you say medicine?" The medicine man said, "Our medicine is preventive. The white man's medicine is remedial, and it's good." My father, Roland Marbaugh, would would have died in 1975, but he had 2 heart bypasses then and 5 more in 1987. He died in 2012. We had him all those years, and I'm grateful for that and many other good things in modern society. Think about how we've evolved as a society and across the world in what was once called the revolution of greater expectation. Here are lines from a poem I wrote 30 years ago expressing the window of opportunity that America represents for the advancement of humanity. The title of the poem is Last Days of the Second Millennium. One section pays tribute to the dreams that progressive people in my generation have had. I'm grateful to live in a place where we've had the freedom to express those dreams and actually turn some of them into public policy. Oh, we dreamed of the way of true humanity. We were talking about democracy, liberty, equality, about brotherhood and sisterhood and human rights, talking about fairness in the everyday workplace, about future bosses working beside employees like friends, about co-ops and profit sharing and pulling together, talking about freedom to speak your mind, freedom of all religions, not just the state religion, freedom from religion, due process in all venues, not just the liberal courts, true equality of all humanity, red and yellow, black and white, male, female, disabled, lesbians, bis, gays, transgenders, and queers, equal pay for equal work, the pursuit of happiness as a constitutional amendment, talking about international partnership replacing imperialism. Yes, we marched and sang and dreamt about human evolution, giving peace a chance. We envisioned an America setting the example for the world for human decency and dignity. We were talking about no more human bondage, my friend. Ending human bondage in all its manifestations. And that scared the hell out of those who profit from it. My parents were of the generation of Caucasian Americans who saw everything changing in the 1960s and 70s. Changes that came fast and furious with the movements of those days. And many of that generation couldn't handle it. And many of their children and grandchildren still cannot handle the changes. And that has contributed to the craziness in our world. The acclaimed book, Sapiens, by Yuval Noah Harari, points out that for 100,000 years, human beings lived as indigenous people in small villages. When you live in a band of 100 or 200 people, you follow the moral and ethical rules of the social order. For example, you can't steal a necklace because you will be caught and punished. But when humanity developed cities of thousands of people, even hundreds of thousands, and now millions, a different culture emerged. A thief could steal that necklace and disappear into the crowd on the other side of the city. Rape, murder, piracy, highway robbery, cheating in business deals, that all became commonplace. And cities expanded that culture of immorality to conquest of other cities, exacting tribute, like the 500 bushels of corn mentioned in the Bible, enslaving the conquered people. In the poem I previously mentioned, I expressed it like this. But on closer inspection, what we really saw beneath it all were 10,000 groveling, heartless years, pressing human blood into every brick of those mud, stone, concrete, glass, greedy, cold, cruel castles. We saw legions of lords and financiers, foremen, supervisors, traders, and slavers, driving a myriad of slaves and forgotten serfs, indentured servants, and penny-poor labor who swarmed the planet like acrobatic army ants, responsible for every crumbled ancient acropolis and every throbbing modern erect metropolis. That's where we are today. A significant immoral culture in which a large portion of our population either practice or condone preying on other citizens and other countries for the sake of accumulation of wealth and power, with the progressive, more moral, cultural, and political advances of recent decades. The predators are in a state of cultural shock. A black president, a black female vice president and Supreme Court justice, gay marriage, legalization of marijuana. They just hate it. So they're lashing out in all the ways possible to turn back the clock, to maintain that old world order of dog eat dog and might makes right and God guns guts and glory. They practice racism, sexism, xenophobia, homophobia, lying, misinformation, alternate realities, dirty political tricks, name-calling, red-baiting, voter suppression, outright violence, massacres in Charleston and Buffalo. I don't need to go on and on. We've talked about it in our joys and sorrows, in our Zoom roundtables. We are in a civil war for America's soul. But don't forget, there have been countless worst of times. The United States had a bloody, brutal civil war, for gosh sakes, followed by a century of Jim Crow atrocities. The play that I was in last week, Deep Greenwood, performed in 3 cities in Oklahoma, tells the story of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. A white mob tried to lynch a black man accused of molesting a white woman. A group of armed blacks tried to stop the lynching. And so, about 5,000 God-fearing whites killed at least 200 African Americans and burned down the thriving black business section in Greenwood known as Black Wall Street. They dropped bombs from an airplane and burned down 35 blocks in the neighborhood. More than 10,000 black people were left homeless. Most of the dead were dumped in a mass grave, and nobody knows where it is. That is a worst of time, my friends. Yet those black people rebuilt their business buildings and homes within a couple of years. As Stell and I ate at a restaurant on Greenwood Avenue, I looked up and saw engraved at the top of a brick business building across the street, Williams Building, 1922. They rebuilt that building within 1 year of the riot. That resiliency was reflected in this letter from a black man who refused to leave town after the massacre. A friend of his offered a train trip ticket to Detroit to start a new life, and this was his reply. Dear Curtis, how kind of you to volunteer your sympathetic assistance. It is just like you to be helpful to others in times of stress like this. True, it is. We are facing a terrible situation. It is equally true that they have destroyed our homes. They have wrecked our schools. They have reduced our churches to ashes. And they have murdered our people, Curtis, but they have not touched our spirit. And while I speak only for myself, let it be said that I came here and built my fortune with that spirit. I shall reconstruct it here with that spirit, and I expect to live on and die here with it. Oliver. Spirit. As I absorb the terrible news from around our country and the world, I try to keep a good spirit and remember this line from that poem. The choice after truth is it will set you free or chain you to your rage. In the midst of all the craziness of our time, Franklin Abbott recently said, on this stage in our celebration of life, don't suffer from your suffering. On another Sunday, Reverend Kimball Sorrells said, now is the time to tend to our souls, not ignoring all that is going on, but practice spirituality. Practice. Also from behind this pulpit, Reverend Kim Palmer said something like this. Compassion is a practice. When I find myself slipping away from it, I try to get back to it. So, going forward into the turbulent storm that lies ahead in America, let us choose compassion and spirit and support the causes of liberty, equality, and justice for all, each doing what we can to prevent the destruction of our democracy and our decency as a people. But while doing so, let's also take care of ourselves. Practice good health, good mental health, good spiritual health. Practice gratitude for all that we have that is good. Practice joyfulness, even in the midst of so much turmoil and sorrow. As Khalil Gibran said in the introduction to his book, Tears and Laughter, let us embrace the tears and laughter of our existence. Let us, in the midst of craziness, commit to and practice sanity. Thee and me. Thank you for listening. Seize the day. Carpe diem.
Carpe diem.
Wade, I trust you know that applause is for you. Thank you, Jim. So, we have a few community community announcements to share. Beacon Dance will present our final performance of this 60th anniversary season this coming Friday and Saturday, June 17th and 18th at 6:30 p.m. Performances will be followed by a potluck dinner and conversation about place and belonging. The event is free and open to the public. For details, visit www.beacondance.org. 2 weeks from yesterday, promote the vote right here, side yard, 1 till 4 p.m. Dr. Jean providing music, food, speaker from Fairfight, America, Fairfight, Georgia.
Action. Fairfight action.
Fairfight Action. Be there on the square, or be square.
So what's the date of that?
The 25th, June 25th, 1 till 4 p.m.
That's a Saturday, right?
Yes.
June 19th, Sunday of next week. Bring a favorite snack, drinks, assorted food to share. The membership guild is going to have the first outdoor kiddish, honoring the 3 F's: fathers, freedom, and food. After COL next Sunday, June the 19th. And finally, Save the Soil Walkathon in Atlanta by 2045. I'm not going to read that, but the Save the Soil Walkathon is Saturday this coming weekend, June the 18th from 8 a.m. to 11:30 at the Grant Park Gateway. And we'll include that information in the weekly bulletin. Patton?
I wanted to share both a personal joy and a community announcement in that we are sitting here in the comfort of air conditioning today because of the kindness and expertise of our member, Bill Laney. And not only did he fix our thermostat issue, but he's also responsible for why we can see Robert so clearly up on stage, because he fixed our track lighting up there. So if you get a chance, send him a text or email, inundate him with gratitude.
And may I also point out, I did not get a chance to enjoy being here on Friday evening, but on the walls we have, which includes Jean and Ted Pettis.
And Sue King.
And who?
Sue King.
Sue King, all helped create the event and put a new art on our walls. And since Sue was particularly pointed out, I might as well continue the embarrassment and say thank you, Sue, for our front doors from the outside into the congregation, which she first worked with the congregation to get a, what do you call the high pressure water sprayer?
Pressure washer.
Pressure washer. First worked to pressure wash them, and then when I don't think anybody showed up to help her, came back and worked to fill and stain them. So, I try not to point these things out any more often than necessary in order to avoid Sue getting mad at me. But nonetheless, I just love those doors. So at last, let me turn it over to Craig for our closing congregational song.
Okay, in the former songbook, 118 is the last one, Garden Song.
Oh, yeah.
I first heard this, Arlo Guthrie, did it. He also had one of his funny stories to go along with it. Anyway, this key, inch by inch. How's that feel?
Good.
Okay. Inch by inch, row by row, Gotta make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. Inch by inch, row by row, from the dusty seeds I sow. Someone warn them from below till the rain comes tumbling down. Pulling weeds and picking stones, we are made of dreams and bones. Feel the need to grow my own, 'cause the time is close at hand. Grain by grain, the sun and the rain, find my way in nature's chain, to my body and my brain, to the music from the land. Plant your rows straight and long, temper them with prayer and song. Mother Earth will make you strong if you give her love and care. Old crow watching hungrily from his perch in yonder tree. In my garden I'm as free as ever leaf up there. Inch by inch, row by row, gotta make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. Inch by inch, row by row, someone bless these seeds I sow. Someone warn them from below till the rain comes tumbling down.
Thank you to Craig Rayfuse.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you everyone for being here today. Our closing words come from Albert Einstein, and I try to remember them whenever I feel unusually self-righteous. A question that sometimes drives me hazy. Am I or are the others crazy? Hope to see you next week when we will celebrate Juneteenth with Reverend Angela Denise Davis. Have a great week. Do something good for fathers if you have the opportunity, and we'll see you soon.